a distant past, Koreans worshipped the sky, mountains and rivers, for they believed that each housed a god or spirit which ruled human fortune or misfortune. Such simple primitive religion, or shamanism, still prevails in this age of modernization. This is a small shrine dedicated to a protector god. Here are wooden roadside idols, the village guardians. In this fishing village is a shrine to the sea goddess. To appease her possible anger, the villagers make an offering of phallic symbols. So the villagers, individually or in groups, offered prayers to the guardians of the village in the old days. They believed that they would be punished heavily if they disobeyed the gods. Long ago, there were many exorcists who were supposed to pass on the god's will to the villagers and the people's wishes to the gods. An exorcist, therefore, would appease the gods in order to bring blessings to the people, heal the sick, and send the souls of the dead to paradise. An exorcism ritual can be small, attended by 1 or 2 persons, but in the days gone by, all the villagers would take part in a large ritual which lasted for several days and nights. The village festival, observed with prayers for a rich harvest and prosperity, was attended by all villagers. Such festivals still survive today, not primarily for exorcism, but as folk art. Korean shamanism took root among the people long before Buddhism, Confucianism or Christianity were introduced. Here are the rites Koreans used to observe in the passage of their life cycle. In the past, many Koreans believed a child's birth was governed by the 3 gods of birth. So they prayed before a rice jar, which they called the jar of 3 gods, or a bag of 3 gods, for the coming of a baby. When a child was born, a straw rope was hung across the gate to keep outsiders from coming into the house, which was considered a dangerous influence. The rope was believed to be a talisman for the child's health, wealth and prosperity. If the child became sick, an exorcist was invited in to drive out the evil spirit so that he could be healed. The three gods governing childbirth take care of a child until he is 6, but from the 7th year, the god of the 7 stars, or the Big Dipper, govern his life. On the 7th day of the 7th month in his 7th year by the lunar calendar, the child visits an exorcist and dedicates his nameplate with time and date of birth at the altar of the 7-star god, and the exorcist, who now becomes his foster mother, prays for his health and longevity and tells his fortune. When a bride arrived at the groom's house after a wedding, the family put on a ceremony outside the front gate to drive out misfortune before she entered the house. Then the exorcist flung rice or red beans over the newlyweds to drive out evils. Some become exorcists hereditarily, while others receive their vocation from the gods. One who receives a vocation is called the god's daughter and is ordained by a senior exorcist. Please, let me have my drum. Take the drumstick and hit the drum to prolong human life and to bestow blessings. Upon hearing the voice of the god's daughter ceremonially touches one of the bowls, each containing rice, sesame, red beans or water. If she touches the water bowl, for instance, it means that the dragon god is here. She then enshrines the god on the altar. She would receive 3 years exorcist training from her senior to become an independent exorcist. full-fledged exorcist now follows the path of shamanism with a sense of mission that she would serve the god by leading the people from adversity to good luck and from despair to hope. This is the so-called washing exorcism of Changsan Island in South Chola province. A hereditary exorcist conducts the ritual to calm the soul of the dead by washing it with water. The exorcism, consisting of 12 steps, starts from the first step of the Dragon King exorcism, in which the bowl containing the soul of the dead is soaked in water, after which the soul is transferred onto the tip of a bamboo stick and is carried to the house. Home, 3 exorcist rituals are observed consecutively in the kitchen, in the wooden floored hall, and before the altar prepared in the courtyard. Singing and spell chanting by the exorcist are repeated to the accompaniment of drum, gong, and flute. The rituals last well into the night. The next step is the ritual of easing the grievances of the dead soul by symbolically untying 7 knots in a piece of cloth, one by one. Next is the ritual for the repose of the soul, in which a symbolic soul placed on the head is lifted upward. As the next step, the soul is put into a bronze vessel which symbolizes the head, and with a paper costume patterned after the body, it is put on a rolled mat or straw bags. A pot lid is placed on top, and now the washing exorcism really begins. After the chanting of spells which precede striking the lid and the mat or bags are washed with clear water, mugwort water and incense water in that order, and then wiped with a cloth. Now the soul is taken out of the vessel and the evil spirits are driven out from it. The cleansed soul is put on the altar and then into a basket. The next step of sending the soul begins. To send the soul away to paradise, a long piece of cloth which symbolizes the road to the other world is spread out, and the participants hold the soul basket on the cloth, pulling and pushing and chanting. At daybreak, they dance and sing, holding clothes belonging to the deceased in their hands. After 2 more 4 similar stages, the whole show comes to the finale, in which the clothes, the soul, and papers used are burnt. The exorcist rituals observed in different parts of the country may seem quite different from one another, but they hold basic elements in common, and therefore it is not hard to understand all if you know one of them. While the country's shamanistic exorcism and exorcists are on a gradual decline, an effort for the preservation of their original form is being made in view of their contribution to the development of age-old folk arts. Exorcism comprises singing, dancing, and spell chanting. In the course of its development, singing gave influence to the folk song, dancing to folk dances, and spell chanting to prose and poetry. Through the media of tradition, customs, and daily life, the influences of primitive shamanism still exist in modern Korea, perhaps as an element of nostalgia for the distant past. Modern men live amid the wheels of science and civilization, and yet, around Korean workers in mammoth modern plants coexists the resonance of shamanistic belief, which can be traced back to the pre-Christian era, because the nation's folk arts and customs have taken their roots in these old remnants of old Korea.